Last week, a Chicago police officer responding to a 911 call shot and killed two of the people that he was going to the residence to supposedly help. And now, one of the fathers, Quintonio LeGrier, the father of one of the slain, 19-year-old Quintonio LeGrier, is speaking out. He was on CNN. We're going to show you a few videos of his remarks. It is obviously extremely emotional footage, a little bit hard to watch at points, but extremely important because this has just happened to him, and you can get a real feeling for what it's like to be one of the, unfortunately, many families who has to experience this in America every single year. So here's the first video.
He was a kind, generous son who always contribute nothing but the utmost respect for all people. His age, older, he was the model kid, wasn't perfect, but he was that type of kid that would respect anyone of authority. And he was a great son, the perfect son for me.
So obviously, preemptively in some way fighting back against what will surely be, inevitably, the right-wing media's attempt to paint this 19-year-old kid as he had it coming, he was asking for it, he made it happen. No, it's his son. To him, it's his perfect son.
So
not coming.
He said, "This is my only son. You robbed me of everything."
Yeah.
So kid was an electrical engineer. So the reason the cops were called is because he had some emotional issue. We get that. The mom says he doesn't have any mental issues. The kid's an electrical engineer. He's bright. He's had a great future ahead of him. Now, I don't know the details of that. We don't need to argue over that. But the lawyer says that they shot from 20 feet outside the house. How close could the kid have been from inside the house? They also shot 55-year-old Betty Jones, who answered the door. They're coming in shooting when they were called to help.
Yeah, not even in. Just walking towards the house, the door opens, they begin shooting.
Yeah, and look, he's going to tell you more about how it went down. But he also said, "I need the nation to know that I raised a good son." Because what's sick about this is after you lose, I mean, I don't know if you guys got kids, but think about it. If it was your son, your kid, and they shot him dead, and you're going to hear more of what they did to the father afterwards, and then you have to go on national TV to defend him. He's the victim, right? But no, you have to defend him because you know the onslaught is coming, as John pointed out. Oh, did he ever do anything wrong? Was he ever, did he ever get detention in school? Literally, these are the things. Is there a picture
on social media we don't like?
Yeah, because, if your son got shot, he must have been guilty. Yeah. Well, how about Betty Jones? Even the cops say, well, oops on that one, 55-year-old answered the door. Shouldn't answer the door to cops. Of course we're going to shoot you. That one they say is an accident, although with Quintonio, they don't say that it's an accident. They say that he was, 911 call said that he was, quote, a little agitated.
Yeah.
So if the cops know you're a little agitated, well, obviously they're going to come and shoot you.
They're already terrified. Yeah, but we're going to show you more video in just a second, but their description of exactly what happened in regards to Quintonio is officers responded to a domestic disturbance at a residence. Upon arrival, officers were confronted by a combative subject, resulting in the discharging of the officer's weapon, which fatally wounded two individuals. What I love about that statement, it is so purposefully the most passive sentence that has ever been written in the English language. Resulting in the discharging of the officer's weapon. Just naturally through the laws of physics. His gun went off because he was combative. No, you shot and killed him.
No, that's
and her.
Victim blaming 101. You murdered the kid, and then you say, he caused the discharging of my weapon.
There's no officer in this. There's no officer. It's just a gun floating.
By being combative. What was Betty Jones being combative? All they did was answer the door. You came in shooting. So, no, the 30-day suspension for now. They're looking it over, mulling it.
We don't know who the cop is.
Right, we don't know who he is. And I'm sure that the police will come clean, as they always do, throughout the country and say, oh, yeah, no, this is very important that we protect civilians. No, they're going to blame the civilians. They're already doing it.
So why don't we show more? As you said, the father is going to describe exactly what happened that night.
After a second banging on the door, I received a phone and called the police department because I wasn't equipped with being able to understand how to deal with my angry son at that time, because I figured the police would know better how to handle an angry situation that my teenage son was going through.
So the description of the night is going to come in the next video. There, he's describing why he chose to call the police. He had heard his son banging on his door with a baseball bat. And it's amazing to me that he still, at this point, after all that we've seen over the past couple of years, he still turns to the police to help him in a situation with his family that he can't handle, which is beautiful but tragic in this case.
So the father here, I think he is way, way, way too kind to the cops. We'll get to that in a second. But here, he made the initial mistake of thinking that cops would come to help you. In Chicago, when you're black?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and again, he's such a good-hearted guy. So he thought, I'm not equipped for this. You thought the cops would have training to deal with someone who was having an emotional issue? Do you know that people who are mentally ill are the most likely to be shot? Second most likely are black people. If you've got a black person having an emotional or mental issue on that moment, oh no, don't call the cops. I mean, isn't this sick? I'm telling you right now, look, you try to take a handle on it on your own, call a doctor, do whatever you got to do, maybe call an ambulance, but I'm afraid. I'm not sure I'd call the cops. Cops come in with guns raised, and the kid's got a bat. Oh, they're going to call it a weapon, and it's done. It's done. You're taking your life, your neighbor's life, your son's life into your hands. Now, he didn't know that. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
He thought that we live in a decent country where the cops would come to help you. No. So what? Oh my God, they're not trained, and this is what we've been saying over and over again. Well, you goddamn train them already. Don't train them to kill. Train them to help. I know that's a crazy thought for cops across the country. They get trained for the overwhelming majority, and we've covered this on the show before. The overwhelming majority of their training is: how do I kill him? How do I stop him? How do I do aggression? How do I get him down? How do I arrest him? How do I use physical force and get him down and get him to respect me? Right? God, this isn't about your respect. Like they're all coming in here with power trips and wanting respect and all that stuff. A tiny percentage of the training is, hey, maybe we shouldn't shoot sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe we shouldn't shoot. No, when they do training, and it's not all the departments, in San Antonio, they train on, hey, some people we go to deal with have mental issues. Mm-hmm. And so when you are confronted with that, this is what you should do. And you know what happens? They don't shoot in San Antonio.
That's good. That's
good.
Good.
It's not that they never shoot. It's not that there's never any problems in San Antonio, but they are better equipped. But we don't equip cops in Chicago with that. We equip them to kill, and then when they kill, we're all surprised. You shouldn't be surprised.
Okay, let's go to this next clip. This is where the father, I think that the weight of what has just happened sort of sweeps over him live on TV. So let's watch.
And as I got a quarter of the way down the staircase, I heard gunshots. I stopped at that point in time because I didn't know for sure where those shots were coming from. After that, the gunshot stopped. I proceeded further down the stairs, displaying my hands, indicating that I'm sorry, Miss Brooke.
No, I'm sorry.
Indicating that, I'm so sorry, give me 1 second. Indicating that I was the father and I was the one that called. Please forgive me, Miss Brooks. My son was laying there, and he was still alive and moving. And no one at all assisted him at any time while he was there. Once the paramedics approached the porch, they proceeded onto the porch. And I look back in the hallway, and I see them dragging my son out, not to roll him over to give him a CPR, but just to pull him out and put him on the gurney and roll him away. No one administered CPR at any point. No one. At this point, I didn't know what to say or what to do as I saw my son and Miss Jones be rolled away.
So they didn't try to help him. That is almost a constant in all of these cases. They shoot the person, they just leave them there to die. Because it's easier to win a court case, I suppose, when the person's dead than when they're crippled for the rest of their life. They dragged the father away to question him for hours, and during all of that time, they refused to tell him what happened to his son. Now, his son had died, but they refused to tell him that.
When I first heard the story on the show, I didn't think I could get angrier. But as usual, I was wrong about that. I'm now angrier. Again, I'm asking you, if you got kids, don't. I mean, I saw this in a movie once, in a silly Time to Kill Matthew McConaughey movie, where he says to the jury, now imagine if it was your kid and not a black kid. And I thought, doesn't everybody do that? And the reality is, no, they don't do that. They don't. So I guess I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Imagine that it's not a black kid, that it's your kid. Your kid, whether you're black, white, whatever. It's your kid, right? You called for help. The cops come and shoot your kid dead. They won't help him. He's there bleeding out. They won't help him. You're asking him, please, can you help him? You just shot him. Can you please help him? And then they drag you away and question you. You don't know if your son's dead or alive. You don't know what happened to him, but they're checking in on you. Why? Because they got to cover their ass.
Yeah.
They just murdered your son. So they're busy covering their ass. They won't even tell you if your son's alive or dead. Can you imagine anything more grotesque? Black people are angry, I'm told. Not nearly angry enough. Not nearly angry enough. Imagine how angry you would be if that happened to your son, your daughter, someone you loved. Imagine how angry you'd be at anyone who did that. These guys are worse than common criminals because we gave them badges, we gave them guns, we gave them responsibility. They're supposed to protect us. Common criminal we know could come and get us. Their job isn't to protect us. Yeah. The cops' job is to protect us, and instead they come in shooting. And yes, it is disproportionately black. I covered this on yesterday's show.
Yeah.
Young black males are shot 21 times more often than young white males by cops. If you can't see that that's disproportionate and that race is an issue, you're purposely being blind to it because you don't want to see it. It makes you uncomfortable. And you think, well, they shoot a couple of black kids and then a 55-year-old grandmother. It wasn't my grandma. It wasn't my kid. Well, then there's something wrong with you. And there's something wrong with us as a country if you're not morally shocked and outraged by that. And so he sues, right? He sued for $50,000.
Yeah, $50,000 wrongful death.
Okay, he's doing that so that they investigate it. Okay, $50,000 is nothing. My guess is he's suing for a small amount so it doesn't seem like he's doing this for money, right? Because you know what people are going to say? Oh, yeah, he's trying to get rich. God damn it, it's his only son. Don't you have any feelings, right? I would have sued for $1 billion. I would have sued for $10 billion until I bankrupted the Chicago Police Department and built it again to be a humane police department that protects us instead of killing us. I'd have driven them out of business in any way, shape I could if they did that to my family. What would you have done if it was your family? Are you kidding me with $50,000? I'd want to break their back as an organization because they keep killing people. They're shooting them in the back, shooting them in the front, when they answer the door, when they ask for help. Look, this guy is way too decent. This father, Antonio, he says he wanted to reach out to the family members of the officer who did the shooting.
Yeah.
He is 1,000 times more decent than I am. He says, quote, I'm sure he's hurting as well about the cop because he has to live with the fact that he shot blindly into a doorway without thinking about who or what he would hit. Look, this is part of a cultural thing, and I shouldn't say it, but white people in this country unfortunately have taught African Americans for hundreds of years that even if you are the victim, you are aggrieved, you are trespassed upon in any way, you're supposed to apologize.
Yeah.
Okay, you bow your head, right? They shoot you, you bow your head. Same thing happened in South Carolina. Dylan Roof comes in and shoots 9 people in a church. The judge asks, and I've got one of our fans or one of our audience members knows the judge, says he's a decent guy. Okay, I believe it, but it's in the culture. It's in the culture. They ask for forgiveness and feelings for Dylan Roof's parents.
Yeah.
It's not time for that. It's not time for that. Maybe you're a better person than I am, but it's time to say, God damn it, we should be more angry. Stop killing our kids. Stop killing our kids. It's not too much to ask for.